I've covered all the technical stuff on this. I'm going to set my depth, okay, pretty quick, just like this. I'm going to set it just like this, a little bit underneath. I got my dust extractor. Yes, the TS60 is hardwired. Yes, it has an EC motor. Okay, but I want you to notice as I go through this. Let me, oh geez, right when you think you have everything set up perfectly, when I go through this, you're going to see me do a variety of things over and over and over. That's all on essentials. You're going to see me, when I plunge, I bring it full speed first. I check right now if my blade is forward of the cut, right? I'm going to start at full speed. I'm going to make sure I have dust extraction, the window's down, and I'll make the cut. Now, it's kind of cool because we don't need to time this because they're going to be all the same. Whether it's a TSC55, a TS55, or the new TS60, they're all 1.8 millimeter thickness. Now, the difference between this and the TS55 is this is spinning at 6,800 RPM. And if my memory is correct, the TS55 spins at 5,600 RPM. Does that make a difference? It sure does. And also, this is an EC motor. And you combine that with the 1.8, it's an effortless cut. So I like to wrap the cord and hose up around my arm. I always start at full speed. I plunge, and you're gonna notice I stay in line. Now what's amazing about that is I can't believe how powerful it is. It is a really powerful saw. Do I need all of that? Well, let's look at the TS55. Right now, the 55 range and 60 come with when you get it in the package, it comes with a 1400 rail. If you price out the 75, it comes with a 1900 rail. That's why there's a difference in money versus the 60 and the 75. The next saw I'm going to use is the TS55. And now, the cool thing about this is I'm going to keep the same amount of pressure. I'm going to basically do it the same. I'm getting my 6 millimeter offset. I'll take my saw on here, double check she's okay, get my dust extraction block down on it, and get it hooked up. I'm going to take this off because that's what I was using last. The other thing, it's a plug-it cord. And that's nice to have as well, as long as you have a plug-it cord around. Once again, you can have, oh, there we go, right where I usually put it. Right when you think you have everything set up. I always get a kick out of it. Okay, get this plugged in. There we go, whoopsie. And remember, when you put a plug-it cord, everybody, you just don't stick it in there. It's a full quarter turn to lock it in. I'm gonna check my depth, just like this, and make the cut. So I'm comparing apples to apples. I have the same weight I'm pushing on here, same speed. I did check the depth really good. But I'm just gonna go through it again. Boy, does that cut fast. Okay, I will tell you, I didn't notice a difference. So, as Travis this week said, what are you going to use it for the majority of the time? I said, cutting sheet goods. And it was almost an epiphany to me. I went, oh, daggone it, I'm going to save $200. And that's what it is. It's a savings of $200. This is our flagship model. This is what we're known for. This, the Rotex, the Domino. And why not leave it in our lineup to make that, maybe it's your first tool and you save a few dollars. Okay, now I am quoting you, that extra 200 is with a rail. So it makes it nice. All right. So I'm going to go back a ways because we had that question before. What do I need? A TS55 or a TSC55? And if you remember that episode, you go back and watch it. I called it, it's about the freedom. And I'm gonna make another rip and you'll see it. So I have it here, I have two 5.2, let me set it up. Where's my block? Right here. I always use my limit stop. This is for plunge cutting, but it's just a nice way to do a quick 6mm reveal. Perfect. I get it all set up, and once again, I don't have a hose, and I don't have what? A cord, because I'm cordless now. And you may, oh, let's look inside, hang on, apples to apples. See, this is my Las Vegas trick. Woo! Nothing inside, let me zip her up, and let's put the bag on. So it's that freedom. I'm going out to the job site. I just have one sustainer. I'm not bringing my dust extractor. I need my cordless drill, my T18 or my TID18. I now have a track saw. I just bring that with the track, and I'm ripping plywood on the job site. It's freedom. Let me set my depth. There we go, and set my dust extraction down, my outside splinter guard, and I'm making a cut. And it's just as fast. Okay, also very important. This is a cool thing to remember. The TSC 55, cordless 55, and the 60 have the anti-kickback technology. The TS 55 has a riving knife. Is that may be a decision maker for somebody? I don't know as a first one, but I can't not do a demo with the TSC 55 and not do this demonstration. Because it always, always, always blows me away how much dust. It gets 90% of the dust with the bag. So it's amazing. And hopefully I did my due diligence of one of the reasons you get that is price point. They're still fantastic. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. The second reason is depth of cut. And I'm going to cover some of that toward the end with the 60 versus the 55. But think about it, and I'm going to go over here because I have a tough time remembering all this depth. With the 55 at 90, okay, this is all in a catalog, but you got to be careful when you look at websites or catalogs. They say the depth of cut on the 55 or the 75 or the 60 is off of the guide rail. Those are the numbers you see. So when I calculate them, I always use one of the track saws with the guide rail, except if I'm working with flooring. So if we look at a 55, the depth of cut of a TS55 is what? 55 millimeters. It really isn't. Subtract 5 millimeters. The thickness of the rail is 5 millimeters. So I know this almost by heart. It's 1 15/16 inches depth of cut with the 55 in the TSC 55. The other thing that I always wanted to know, in case I needed that option with those, is what's my 45-degree cut depth? And that is 1 7/16 inches. Just a hair under what? A 1/2 inch. Whew. Okay, now, I'm gonna jump to the TS75, because that's what I've always done. And then I'm gonna dovetail that 60 in there for you. The TS75 is 70 millimeters on the guide rail. That equates to 2 3/4. Very important. At 45 degrees on the 75, this is why it's been a winner. It will cut 2 inches. It's actually 56 millimeters at 45 degrees. So that allowed people over the years to do this. To do what? Waterfall. All right, we continue the grain all the way around so it looks like the grain is waterfalling over. And that has been a huge thing, and people need the 75 versus the 55 and 60 for waterfalling 2-inch slabs. Hopefully that made sense. I'm going to be ripping in a couple of seconds because I'm going to talk about the 60 now, because that is a huge thing with the depth of cut with a 60. And when I say that, somebody go, well, TS60, subtract 5 It's not that easy. It's actually, TS60 sounds good, but it's actually, if you look in the catalog, not the catalog, in the owner's manual, it's actually a 62 millimeter depth of cut. That is huge, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So you get at 90 a 2 1/4 cut and 1 5/8 inches at 45 with a 60. But for me, I woke up in the middle of the night the other night and go, 2 1/4, 2 1/4. And I went, oh, bang, and I'll show you the application. And so I used to show people, I used to coach people to get a 75 because they needed it because of this application, where now the 60 will do it. So I'll cover that in a few minutes. This is like an unbelievable cut when you're straight line ripping. Okay, but what I want to do, and I had this edge yesterday over here. So when I set this up, I go, you know what? I can coach everybody the right setup for this. Is that amazing how much dust there is? In just one 8-foot rip, it's crazy. So I'm just going to grab this rail, I'm going to bring it over. And whenever I set this up, I'm going to set it up to rip here. I know I'm going to get that all the way down, so I'll just set that up. And I'm always going to what? Clamp it. I want to make sure I have plenty of room forward. Plenty of room. I like long rails. Sorry, that's just the way I am. But then when I come down here, I'm still eyeballing it. Okay, and that's all I'm doing right now because I want to show you the power of this. So what happens is I start ripping, and this wants to move as I push. So what I like to do is I like to show this setup here. I like to take the clamp. I like to put it underneath. Okay, every time I used to do this in class, people used to freak out. But I used to take it like this and see, Chris, can we get this? I'm actually going to lock the whole setup to my MFT. So now I'm locked solid, and that's the way I want it. So I'm just going to grab the 75. I already have you set up over here. I set you up on this earlier. I'm just going to knock out if I have any slop in there. I'm ready to go. Now you may notice, and this was pointed out to me recently, the 75 doesn't have all the micro adjust on it or a lot of fancy depth setting on it. It's because it's an older saw. But it's a necessary saw in somebody's lineup if they need the depth of cut. And it's still such a winner. So it has a thicker curved blade. You'll actually see it. You'll hear something I'll talk about. It's called constant speed under load. But it growls on you. I'm just going to set this like this. Always, always make sure you are checking this. I have it set at full depth. Okay? Always check to see your forward of the cut. In other words, if I started it here, it may kick on me. This has a riving knife. So let's get going with it. Why did I get all that dust? I'll show you. See this? I'm going to set it a little bit further back because that right there is exposing that blade. So it'll just take 2 seconds. I'm going to set it back a hair back so I actually bury the blade. Big difference, huh? Now you hear that? What's happening, hopefully I can explain this correctly. See how I'm just pushing it forward? It's not struggling. We're ripping. I believe this is 2.5. Okay? But what's happening is it's monitoring the speed of the blade. I have it at full speed. And what happens is if I stalled, you may get burning. But if you look at that, and I know people who do this all the time, they make 2 or 3 cuts with a 75. They don't have to. They can make 1 cut and check it out. That's a full depth of cut, maybe 1 or 2 saw marks where I stopped or hesitated, but that's it. So what that equates to is a huge time savings. Think about if you're ripping, like, say this was cherry or maple or something, and you're hesitating or you're struggling with a saw. There was no struggle here whatsoever. But sometimes when you pause, when you're ripping something like that on a table saw, you get burn marks, right? Guess what? Guess what you have to do? You have to hand plane it or rework it or put it through a jointer. Here you don't have to. You're ready to go. So that's why it's 75. It's the depth of cut. I'm just going to get a quick measurement on this. I don't even know what this is. I know it's, holy moly, it's It's 2.5. I was right. 2.5 inches thick. You can't do that at 90 with a 60 or a 55. So think that through. Now at home, I will tell you, I have a TS55 and I have a TS75. I have the TS75 just in case I need it. All right. Whew. So I think Garrett's a little right. I think I need all of them. Hey, Mo! All right. But what I want to talk about is this. It comes with a sander. It's a turbo bag. And every time I've seen on the sander, other than the Festool brand, well, with the Festool system, I've always hooked it up to the core of the system as the dust extractor, and you can with the without the turbo bag. But the turbo bag comes with it, and every time I've seen like a canister or another bag, they never fill up. For me, they never worked properly. So with this, I'm gonna sand, okay? And it goes into the bag, obviously. So when you take the bag off, there's a little hatch here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dump out some dust that I had been sanding earlier today. And I wanna show you how effective this sander, this pad, and this bag work together in the system. So I'm gonna snap it back on. And I want you to notice, Chris, I want you to really get in here today and watch, make sure I have paper on there, and watch these little, look how that just comes right into play. And this is what I call Festool magic. Look at that. It actually works. And I love this sander because I can get right up against that edge and get everything. So this is a wonderful sander. The turbo bags, there's one for the RTS as well. But what a lot of people don't know, and this is what I want to show you, you can get this, and this to fit on, it has this little part right here, and it goes right on, and you can use it on the ETS or just about any of the sanders. So that's known as a turbo bag. Once again, with these cordless sanders, this is the battery, but if you're in the if you run out of juice or you're in the shop, we also have the hybrid battery. There's no cells in here, but you can put a plug-in cord and hook it up to also you can hook it up to the dust extractor, because you can take this off and that hooks right to the hose. Hopefully that's understood. Moving on. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, now let me show you the original. Minnie, did you know this? This is the original cordless sander from Festool.
Oh, wow.
Check it out.
Wow.
Yeah, I had one at home that I tried to convert. I put a plug-in receptacle here. It just didn't work. Okay, this is what we call, and this has been around since the beginning of Festool time. This is called the Pocket Stick Fix. And it's still in our lineup. You can still get paper. But I have always used this to break a quick edge. And it's wonderful. I have 2 or 3 back here. I always have them in the training center. And it's just real quick. Okay, so there you go. Now, that is the original one. But we also have these available, these hand sanding blocks. Everybody has to do some hand sanding. And what's nice is this is that utilizes the paper that you might already have. Like for the RTS system, it's the same paper. It's 80 here and 130 here. So let's do that for Imperial, for North America, everybody. It is 3" by 5 1/4. Okay, now you may have a Rotex, you may have a 150, you may have an ETS EC or an ETS 5 or 3, and you have some paper, right? Well, we have 2 of these. One's hard and one's soft, and it's really neat. I'll show you how to change the paper on this. You may have some leftover paper. You still think you'll have some use out of it. When you put it on, there's no holes in here. I always line up the radius here, bring it back here, and fold it up. And you'll notice this has a slight cant to it, so you can get up against that adjacent surface as well. And we have it in 2, hard and soft. So there you go. Hand sanding blocks, lost in the catalog. But wait, there's more. What if you want dust extraction? We have this one. It uses the same 80 by 130 paper, all right? But it has this fancy thing on it and this. It has dust extraction. So what I'll tell you right now is it has holes in the pad, so line them up. And this is what I want to teach you how to use this, what I want to do. Let's hook it up to the dust extractor. I love Bluetooth for this because it is cordless, but there's no batteries. So I'm going to step over here, grab my hose, and put it on. That's what the adapter's for. Now, that's why I love the remote. So, Chris, follow me over here. I'm going to actually do this, Chris.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Seibert. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, now check this out. Say I got to go in and do some hand sanding, finishing up after the play next. Okay, I just leave it there and it sands itself. I'm just kidding, okay? What I want to show you about this is really tough to sand with. It gets all the dust. But look at this little part right here. It's actually, I could actually turn the dust extractor down, or what if I'm up on a scaffold? I can adjust it right here. See it? See the hole? Can you get in there, Chris? Yep. Okay, right there. And look, it's a little more effective, or it's still sticking and I don't want it to. On the hose, the new end of the hose has another breakaway, so now I can sand really great. And facilities management's gonna kill me here, and look at that. And once again, when you have effective dust extraction like the Festool system does, your paper lasts exponentially longer. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Yes, we do have a cordless sander or a cordless hand sanding block. Okay. Whew. You know, hey, Chris, you like how I have this all set up in a row?
Yeah, it's nice.
Hey, thank you. Hey, I was thinking about you this morning. All right.
I appreciate that.
You taking notes, Gian? There'll be a quiz next week on this. Okay, good. All right. So let's talk about sandpaper. And there's one that I think gets lost in the catalog. Actually, I get a lot of questions about it. One of the papers that I recommend all the time, and I think probably you've always seen us here using this, this is Granat sandpaper. It's available in from 40 grit all the way to 1500 grit. And it's a paper back. When you get to 800 grit, it's a film backing because the particulate on there that's laid up on it is very fine, of course. But this is paper. And what happens, it's not that it's very thin, but it's thin. This paper is called Sapphire. You'll see it in the catalog. And this has got a cloth back. It's got the loops back here, but it's also cloth back. And it's very coarse. So when I say coarse, it's available, in 24 grit, 36 grit, 50 grit, and 80 grit. So that should hit in your head. Boy, there's nothing above 80. It's for quickly removing thick layers of paint is how I've always taught people. So if 40 grit Granat isn't taking off paint as quick as you'd like, and I put this on here, this is 24 grit Sapphire, and it will heat up less because of the cloth backing and will load less. So I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to get my dust extraction, and I'll show you how it works. I got a couple layers of paint on here. I'm going to grab my dust extraction, and let's go with it. I get it in Rotex mode. And you can see it just tears up that paint really effectively, and it removes it quickly. So, and the telltale sign, if we come over here, Chris, get in here, you look, it doesn't load as much. So there you go, that's Sapphire paper. Now, hopefully I get this right. It's available in 150 or 6-inch. It's available in 5-inch, and it's available in 2 grits, I think, for the Playnex. And I think that's it. But check the catalog for Sapphire and see what forms they're available or what sizes or dimensions. So there you go. All right, so Sapphire. Now, when I was setting up today, I thought this isn't on the roster. I've talked about it a dozen times already, but I wanted to talk about it one more time. What looks better going into a client's house, and because I was taking out my Sapphire paper and I was setting it up. A bunch of boxes like this going in, because I'm going to use multiple pieces. Wow. Hey, Minnie, I think Gian's going to be a permanent part of this team because I like the way he's going. Nope, that doesn't look professional. You're a natural, kid. You're a natural. What looks good is when I walk in like this. Okay, I got my dust extractor, I got my Rotex sander, and up top, I got all my paper in a 6-inch format. And what I do, Chris, come in here, I always do this. I always label, look, 24, 36, so I know where I'm running low and I can order more in 80. So there you go. Oh, hey, and it's for every single shape and size of paper is the sustainer organizer for all our Festool paper. Wow. Okay, this is in the catalog, all right? But it comes with the AGC 18. That is our cordless grinder. And when you're changing, it's an Abernut. And when you're changing it, I always had a problem because I'd always have to go find my spanner. I couldn't get a good grip on it, so this is really nice. You know what, I'm gonna bring it here so you can see it because that's kind of dirty. Look, see how it flips up? And it gives me good leverage to spin it off. So here's your Aberlock. I'm gonna find that hole and I'm gonna spin it right off. And it's that quick. Now, if there gets a lot of concrete dust or a lot of sawdust in there when I'm grinding or sanding with an abrasive wheel, or maybe polish gets in there and it's still too tough, I can't get enough torque on it, we have this. It comes in the AGC and it's your basic spanner wrench and you can get a lot more leverage with it. But this is available. It's the AGC Abernut. And what's really nice about this is a 5/8 11 thread. So listen to that one, everybody. You may not have an AGC, but this will fit your grinder. So there you go. Now, one more thing. Always, always, always remember this. If you are changing something on a cordless tool, make sure you remove your battery. You never want to get caught in going through something and all of a sudden you turn it on. You could get really hurt. So remove the battery when you're doing that. Wow, we're cranking. Huh? Minnie, how we doing? We got enough people up there yet?
They're working me.
Okay. Has Garrett asked this question yet?
Nope.
Okay. Because he's going to ask you a question. I'm not going to answer it.
Oh, come on.
Okay, everybody. This is the next item. All right? I've talked about this, I think, in every Plain X episode. I think I've done like 3 or 4. And that'll continue in the future. But if we look at this, this is called a cradle. And it goes on top of your CT36 or any CT, but the CT36AC is the best CT dust extractor when you get a Plain X. Whether it's an easy, whether it works with even the older ones that have been discontinued, or with the Plain X 2.0. But where it goes, and you know what? Let me show you why I always use it. I've been sanding with the Plain X forever, right? And I gotta change paper. I'm gonna put this on and line up the holes, but I'm actually on the hose trying to get it on there. So what the cradle does is it gives you a place to rest it. So I'm gonna whip this out like this. Chris, you're doing good, eh? Yep. I'm gonna bring it in just like this. I always, see, when I do it backwards, I always have a problem there. I have to face forward. And it's super simple. Look, I'm taking a break. I've been sanding all morning. It's a nice place to rest it, just like this. But what it's really good for, everybody, is to come over and change, because you may not have an MFT. I've seen so many guys change it on the ground, and here you go. It puts it in a nice area for you to do that. You can there's another channel here for 2 Plain X. By the way, does anybody in the room know more than 1 Plain X? It's called Plain Eye. No? Wait for it. Wait for it. The other nice thing about this is you'll see this area here in the cradle. You can put all your sandpaper in there for the job. Everything, a nice place for everything and everything in its place. Whoop.